Alrighty, so UFC 320 is just around the corner, and I'm here to give you the real pound for pound list that people are scratching for, that no one's talking about, but everyone's thinking about. The pound for pound unk list needs to be mentioned, and I'm here to give you my top 10 unks in the UFC. A little bit of prerequisites. They need to, of course, be on the roster, so no people in the testing pool that don't have a rank spot anywhere or a belt or anything like that. They don't fucking count, okay? And another thing is that I believe every one of the names I'm going to list here have fought this year, so that's another thing. One thing about the unks in the UFC, they're pretty fucking active, alright? Credit where credit is due. And I, for one, am a fan of the old veteran fighter beating the young buck and, breaking them and everything like that. So, I'm a fan of it. If you're wondering why I'm wearing this hat from Nightmare Before Christmas, well, it is the Halloween month, I believe, of uploading this. It will be October. Currently, I'm recording this in September, but that's okay. But yeah, this will probably be going out October, so I'm going to wear the hat to showcase the festive month, because I'm chill like that. But without further ado, let's get into the list. I mentioned the prerequisites, and yeah, there's going to be ranked and unranked fighters in this list, and former champs as well. I did do this respective to their division, in my opinion. So if they're coming off a win, I credit that a lot more, because that means they're able to hang a little bit more longer, Like, if they're coming off a loss, one more, two more, and it might be time to, hang up the gloves. But if they're coming off a win, we still got another, year or two with them at the very least. So that's why I have them around. Skill sets are a matter of, are put into the calculations here, okay? But, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. My number 10 spot for unk, pound for pound, number 10 right here is Tim fucking Elliott. Now, little under the radar here, little small, arguably an atom weight. All right, but he competes at the 125 weight division in the UFC. He's been around forever. He might be one of the youngest fighters at 38 that I have on this list, but he's been around for a long time, so that's why I credit him really as an unk. He's been all the way since, oh my god, yeah, he's been 10 years plus. Then, did he get out of the UFC and back in? Jesus Christ. I've only been watching for a couple of years, so, this might be proceeding my ball knowledge, unfortunately. But, yeah, definitely have been in the UFC a long fucking time. I think everyone considers Tim Elliott unk, especially for flyweight. Flyweight's a tough one, because typically flyweights, when they get smoked, they don't come back, when they're getting slept out cold, and it's very easy to do to flyweights, that's typically the sign to hang up the gloves, But Tim Elliott's been doing his thing, man. He's been looking not so great with the skills, but he's been getting it done, Sumaderji win. It's not all that. Sumaderji ain't really that much, he's like the bottom of the barrel when we're looking at flyweights. Even though I did pick him to win his last fight, and I think he did. But it's a good win nonetheless. The Muhammad Mokaev fight is one where I'm really putting a lot of stock in. I know this one was a little while ago, but he was whooping Mokaev for 2 rounds. That was very clear. Very rarely is it, a clear Tim Elliott round, I'd say. And he was whooping Mokaev. Bell to bell whooping Mokaev. Of course, he's beat the fraud over there at the Cliff Dwelling gym with Khabib and them, Tagir Ulanbekov. Lazy-eyed, cross-eyed motherfucker. But, even the great Tim Elliott was able to fraud check him, so... there's that, and then he's got that, lost to Mokaev, but realistically, if he didn't get subbed here, he would've, if my uncle had tits, he'd be my aunt, you know what I mean? But, it is just if he didn't get subbed, this record's looking 5 wins in flyweight against, legit level comp. Kaya Sakura doesn't have a win in the UFC, but I think a lot of people are counting out Tim Elliott, and a lot of people are just yeah, Tim Elliott's gonna get smoked by Kai. And Kai got fraud checked by a goofy striking, Skill-wise, he's not the best striker, doesn't have the best chin, doesn't really look all that tough, he looks very breakable in his fights, but he's got good grappling, and if you come in flyweight and you don't have good grappling, Tim Elliott's the guy to showcase, you fucking suck, back to the B-leagues, So he's a great gatekeeper for flyweight, he's my number 10 here. And then we're going to move on to one that's a little unfortunate. Now, this could change if he gets back in the win column, but he is in the loss, and I did mention that sort of affects my rank here. Rob Font. Again, one of the younger fighters on this list, being 38. These could be seen as honorable mentions if you don't consider 38 an unk. But he's been around for a fucking long time as well. Holy shit. Oh my, yeah, he's been around for over 10 years. That's crazy. God damn. He's fought a lot of different competition over the years, and he's picked up some good wins, and his losses are pretty much to former champs or title contenders. If you beat Rob Font, you're probably going to be a title contender. Now, this David Martinez one, you might see this and be like, oh, well, David Martinez hasn't fought for a belt. We don't know, blah, blah, blah. Right? I get it. However, I will say, I'm just going to put it out there. I do genuinely think Rob Font got robbed. I thought it's a close fight. It's a close fight. Very close fight. Kind of felt like Rob Font should have got the edge there, rounds 1 and 2. But I do understand the argument for Martinez winning it, so I kind of get it. Short notice obviously needs to be a factor, but, it's interesting. It's an interesting one, because I do kind of think Rob Font should have won this one. That being said, Rob Font did look like a bitch out there. He looked like he was scared of throwing. He looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked like Unk don't have it no more. That's why he's down here. If he gets back in the win column, a little bit different, because I don't think David Martin, this might be the first chink. But as far as skill-wise, if you give him unranked guys, he showcased he can beat the Gene Matsumotos. And Gene Matsumoto is pretty good. Rob Font's just a little better on short notice. And then Kyler Phillips, a lot of people were big up in Kyler Phillips. I picked Rob Font in this one. I picked Rob Font in both of these. And yeah, he beat him accordingly, because I thought the Gene Matsumoto was clear Rob Font, and I thought the Kyler Phillips was clear Rob Font. Now, they were close moments, but these guys, they weren't that good. I knew they weren't that good. Kyler Phillips kind of got away with cheating a majority of his career, and he does, eventually you're going to have a fight where refs get sick of it, or you just aren't able to cheat as effectively. He literally eye-poked Pedro Munoz 5 times and still somehow didn't get a point deduction. Really weird stuff. But Rob Font, he's got good hands. He's still got some speed. He's missing that volume, and he's looking a little chinnier as time goes on. The Davison Figueiredo and Corey Sandhagen fight did showcase that he doesn't really have the grappling to hang, I'd say. This Davison Figueiredo fight was more of a striking match, and it just seemed like Rob Font is looking a little bit weaker, but he's able to beat 2 prospects afterwards, so it is what it is. Corey Sandhagen, obviously, he's challenged for the belt. Marlon Chito Vera's challenged for the belt. Jose Aldo's a former champion. These aren't bad losses, and then we're looking all the way 7 years ago when he lost to Rafael Assunção. So I really don't take a lot of steam off of this. He beat Cody Garbrandt. He's beat Marlon Moraes. He's beat a lot of good names, Ricky Simone, that's even a good name, who's fucking beat Murad Divishvili. So, he's beat some good guys. He just now lost to, a not great guy, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens with David Martinez and where he goes and, everything like that, because he's still a young prospect. But he's my number 9 spot. I think it's well-deserved. I think Rob Font's a G. I think we're probably going to see him for another year or 2. He might end up being a win-lose type of fighter after this, but, he showcased he's still good enough, technique-wise, skill-wise. He might just be losing to Father Time at this point, but we'll have to see. Moving on, we have a well-known name amongst old heads, and that is Derek Lewis. Hey, big old D-Lou, man. My balls is hot, good old Derek Lewis. All right, the Black Beast himself. Not racist, that's his nickname, I swear to God. Anyways, reason why Derek Lewis is kind of not any higher is, I get it, he's really high ranked in heavyweight, and to be honest with you, he gets one more win, he probably gets a fucking title shot. Okay, that's why I'm saying John Jones, Derek Lewis, book the fight, number 1 contender for heavyweight. Just saying, that's the fight to make right now, guys. John Jones, Derek Lewis. We got to see if John Jones can hang in there with the guys with the most knockouts. Another credit to Derek Lewis, most knockouts in the UFC. That's a big thing to have. That's a good medal to have. That's a good statistic on the belt. But technique-wise, this guy fucking sucks. I mean, he's just the guy who hits hard. And respective to his division, that takes him far enough to be above guys like Rob Font and Tim Elliott. But I don't think that, respective to the skill, if you compare this guy to Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, when you have any level of threat or skill, Derek Lewis loses the fight. You know, Talison Texera is just a big dude. That's it. Rodrigo Nascimento is just a leaner heavyweight, I guess. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, same fucking thing. Chris Dawkins, really? Huh? I'm just forgetting the fight. Anyways, but yeah, he beat Chris Dawkins. I mean, Chris Dawkins is, you know, whatever. But once he goes against, okay, the Tai Tuivasa one, it's just the Samoan who hits hard, basically. You know, that was plot armor Tai Tuivasa, different era. But Sergey Pavlovich hits like a truck and has good boxing technique and even has some takedowns, now that we've seen it in his career. Sergey Spivak, similar situation. Really good jiu-jitsu, and he's kind of good at getting like a throw. And Derek Lewis just crumbles to that. So any level of skill, like he loses. Cirogan, he's a good striker. Jolton Almeida is a good grappler. You know, when you get a good grappler, doesn't matter if you're the best purple belt in Louisiana, you're still getting fucking fraud checked, okay? D-Lou, alright? But he is just a big dude who hits hard. So, you know, he's credited enough. I think he deserves a spot in the Unk list. 40 years old is kind of wild. Especially to be winning in Big 2025, too. That's kind of crazy to think about. But we move on to a fan favorite, baby. Hey, this is where the hardcores are coming out. If you know, you know. Davy fucking Grant, mate. Hey, you have a license to beat Damon Blackshear. You have a license for that, mate. You know, fucking good old Davy Grant. Alright. Davy Dangerous Grant. This guy, arguably, is on a crazy kind of win streak in hindsight, you know? Just beat Damon Blackshear this year. And, like, this is, like, prime Damon Blackshear era right now. You know, Damon Blackshear is doing his thing. He's able to finish the guys. He lost to Davy Grant. And this wasn't, like, a close fight. Davy Grant did his thing and beat the shit out of Damon Blackshear. Did the same thing with Ramon Taveras. Ramon Taveras is just a punching bag and he fucking sucks. But he was supposed to be something after his win over, I want to say, like, Sergey Saidi or some shit like that. And ended up getting fraud checked by Davy Grant, and now he's in the losing column. And then Daniel Marcos, I really thought Davy Grant won this fight. Daniel Marcos fucking sucks. But he's touted as a big prospect. And that would have been, I think, his first loss on Daniel Marcos' record. If Davy Grant got the nod. Rafael Sunsao, it is what it is. And that guy, you know? Another split decision with Adrian Yanez. This guy could be, in a proper reality, this guy could be on a 6-fight win streak. You know, and that's pretty big in bantamweight. That's kind of like, that's like ranked level. Like, I have no doubt this guy is probably either fighting for a rank spot next or fighting a guy who, like, the winner will then fight for a rank spot, if you know what I mean. So, I think good old Dangerous Davy Grant deserves a spot here. I think skill-wise, he's pretty good. He uses his reach really well. He's a little bit scrawnier, I'd say. Like, he definitely lacks that muscle definition. Probably Father Time taking a lot of that muscle definition, but it is what it is. Davy Grant still pushes through it, you know? He's like a modern-day Alex Morono. You know, if you don't know what that means, basically, he's a lengthy string bean, and he might not have the physicality, but he's got the technique, you know? Grappling defense-wise, grappling offense-wise, he's pretty sound. His striking's pretty good. So I think Davy Grant, like, he deserves a spot here pretty high up. What are we at? 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 7. Good spot. Good spot. Love that. Lucky number 7. Good old Davy fucking Grant. You got a license to be grappling with that guy, mate. You got a license to be here, mate. You got a license to be fighting Charles Jourdain, mate. That's an interesting matchup. I just realized, holy shit, it's been staring at me this whole time. He's fighting Charles Jourdain. That's a sick matchup. Davy Grant gets past Charles Jourdain. You know, we might be in a Davy Grant era, all right? But, yeah, interesting matchup. It's a winnable matchup. I'll probably be picking Charles Jourdain, but it's an interesting matchup. So, yeah, good old Davy Grant, number 7. Moving on to number 6, we have, hey, Ballers, no ball. And if you know ball, you know MJ. Good old Michael Johnson, baby. Hey, this guy's been around for a while. One of the first fights I watched that I think got me into, like, watching the sport. Because, like, I basically binged watch a fuck ton of fights. There's a lot of mid-tier fights and mid-tier scraps that people are like, oh my god, what an amazing scrap. Oh my god. Fucking Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, what a fucking scrap. No, it just had a good conclusion. Wasn't really that big of a scrap. You want to see an actual scrap? An actual scrap is this dude versus Justin Gaethje. This is one of my favorite fights to watch, rewatch, whatever. Justin Gaethje, Michael Johnson is a fantastic fight to watch. That is an actual scrap, an actual war, in my opinion, where both dudes are fucking tired and they're going at 10% or they're going at 100% while they have 10% left in the tank. It's a great fight, great fight. Finishing shots everywhere. It's great. Fantastic fight. But regardless of that, respective to his division, I do think MJ's got really good striking. He's got really good hands. The only reason why he's so far down here is pretty much just because his chin is terrible. And if you know, you know. This guy, he will be masterclassing people on the feed. And then he'll get smoked out of nowhere. Happy with Diego Ferreira, which hasn't aged that well. As Diego Ferreira got fucking smoked by Alex Hernandez recently. Jamie Malarkey, it is what it is. But yeah, like, this guy just doesn't have a great chin. You know? He gets wobbled really easily. Gets like, I think Darius Flowers even fucking wobbled this guy. You know what I mean? So, whenever he's on the feet, you're expecting him to win because he's almost always the better striker, but his chin is just not there. A little bit better than Cody Garbrandt, I'd say. You know, he's the better Cody Garbrandt, especially for lightweight. Lightweight's one of the toughest divisions, I'd say. So, I think he deserves here, you know. Darius Flowers, Ottman Azaitar don't fucking matter, but he did just beat Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel Zellhuber was a massive favorite, and while the fight was kind of close, Michael Johnson did enough to win, and I almost picked Michael Johnson, but I know I didn't, so I'm not going to say I did, but I did put a warning out there, you know, shout out to my predictions, you know, feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow, notification bell. Anyways, yeah, Michael Johnson's fucking good, like, he's just good, he's got good grappling, he's got good stand-up, he's just got no fucking chin, and that's where it comes down to, you know, and whenever it's like he's winning decisions or losing decisions, you still worry about him on the feet. So any matchup he gets, it's like, you know, you could have him versus fucking Chase Hooper, and Chase Hooper might sleep him out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of fighter we're looking at with Michael Johnson. But he's a sick dude. Good old MJ for the sport. Moving on, we have number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have number 5, and that is Jim fucking Miller. All right, same division as MJ. But I think Jim Miller's slightly better. Now, if they fought, it'd be an interesting scrap. And I'd probably pick Jim Miller, but it'd be an interesting scrap. But Jim Miller is, skill-wise, very good. And he's got toughness. And that's saying something. Oldest fighter on the list so far. This guy's 42, and he's able to take massive shots. And I get, like, Bobby Green isn't, like, a power puncher. But he's able to take, like, big overhand rights. Like, fuck, he's able to take a lot of punishment, man. You know? Went over to Damon Jackson. A lot of people are counting him out in that win. I didn't. I picked Jim Miller to beat Damon Jackson. I just thought he was better everywhere. He proved to be better everywhere. Jim Miller is still good enough to be ranked, in my opinion. Now, yeah, he did lose to Chase Hooper in a primarily grappling match. I also want to say it was at elevation. There's something weird about this fight. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, Chase Hooper ended up winning this fight. It was kind of like he got a takedown and he was just out muscling Jim Miller. I mean, that's going to happen. Jim Miller's 42. But Jim Miller is really, really solid even now. You know, he's got good grappling. He's got great stand-up. He just doesn't have pop, and that's, like, really the only problem with him. Like, him not being able to finish Bobby Green was kind of sad to see. And I don't mean, like, oh, you should be able to finish Bobby Green in 2024. You kind of should be, but it's just one of those things where when you watch the fight, Bobby Green ate a lot of shots. And that to me is like, you know, Jim Miller might be pillow-fisted, but him being pillow-fisted, I don't think is a problem because he's got the skills to pay the bills, you know? He can get TKOs via volume. He can get the grappling going and get submissions going, you know? So, I think Jim Miller deserves number 5, top 5 over here, Jim Miller, as far as unks go. I'll probably have like a poll or something with my top 5, top 4, something like that in the list. Probably post it on my channel. So go feel free to hit up that poll. But regardless, yeah, you know, he's beat guys like Nicholas Mata, Donald Cerrone, like, he's been around for so fucking long as well. This guy's been around since, what, UFC, like, 100 or some shit? Or even before then. Yeah, this guy's been around for fucking ever, bro. This guy's... Jesus, man. This guy's been around forever. Been to UFC 100, 200, and 300. Will he make it to 400? Only Father Time can tell us. And, yeah, I mean, he lost to Chase Hooper, but that wasn't like oh, he don't got it no more type of performance. He just got out-grappled by the better grappler. Like, it happens, you know? So I think Jim Miller still got a future. He's got to get back in the win column, but I still think he's, like, ranked level. You know, like, who's bottom 15 in lightweight right now? Like, Jim Miller or Mauricio Huffy's kind of interesting to think about, you know? Jim Miller, Grant Dawson, did they fight already? Why am I thinking they fought already? They have not fought already. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. You know, and his losses, like Bobby Green, it is what it is. You know, Alexander Hernandez is picking up some wins. Chase Hooper just got smoked by Alexander Hernandez. But, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, you know, so I think Jim Miller's solid skill-wise as well. You know, age-wise, taking into account everything, I think he's pretty good. Moving on, we have number 4. And this is a fan favorite. I think everyone can agree here. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. All right. Now, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson here. Yes, he's got a lot of losses. Yes, that impacted how I see him. There is an argument. This guy, he arguably won against Gabriel Bonfim. I believe, if I remember correctly, I thought Gabriel Bonfim won that fight. I don't like that he won the fight because it was boring, but I knew the judges were going to go with control time over Wonderboy strikes. But regardless, there's an argument. Wonderboy is still one of the best strikers in the UFC. Now, he doesn't have pop, and that's where Wonderboy lacks. He does lack that fast switch. But technique-wise, this guy's a fucking marauder. Okay, this guy's a fucking killer on the feet. Alright, and if every fight, like, was stand-up only, this guy would have good odds to be champion right now. You know, this guy would test JDM's boxing skill, in my opinion. But, you know, Shavkat fight, he was doing really well until he got subbed. Joaquin Buckley was doing really well until Joaquin started working in takedowns. He was winning that fight. That was like a 2-1. Like, this is the thing with Wonderboy. He's so good at striking that eventually his opponents are like, nah, we gotta start incorporating something different here. You know, like, he'll only lose to people who grapple with him. If you strike with him, you lose. The only time that wasn't true is when he fought Anthony Pettis. You know? And that was a while ago. So, I'm not really, like, discounting that. You know? But for a man who's 42 years old, to be able to survive most of the punishment dished out by the young generation. Yeah, Joaquin Buckley did sleep him. But that was like the first time Wonderboy got chinned in a while, you know? You know, I know Anthony Pettis did it, but, you know, arguably beat Tyron Woodley in the first fight with the draw. But regardless of that, Wonderboy's still good, man. His grappling is lacking. Yes, he doesn't have great takedown defense showcased in the Gabriel Bonfim fight, but he is still able to just outstrike 90%, I'd say, of, like, roster, and I'd say 99% of the welterweights. You know, like, JDM could beat him in a striking match, probably would. If you take any of the top names right now, yeah, I'd pick, you know, you already beat Kevin Holland. Gabriel Bonfim was losing that fight. Daniel Rodriguez, that'd be a good fight to watch, but I don't think D-Rod would win that, if we're talking about just striking. Jeff Neal will get smoked. Gilbert Burns has beat him through grappling, but wouldn't win on the feet. Colby Covington will get smoked on the feet. Who else we got? Carlos Prates, that'd be a risky one. Okay, how the fuck is Prates number 9? What? Anyways. Joaquin Buckley, if it was just striking, probably wins that decision. Michael Morales, that'd be an interesting one. Ian Gary, he would whoop his ass on the feet. Kamaru Usman probably beats him in the feet. Leon Edwards, Shavkat, like, he beats all these guys on the feet. It's just that he does get taken down, you know? But I think his striking is so good that it promotes him way further up on this list. I do credit striking a lot more than I credit other statistics, but, you know, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I think he's really good. his loss streak just sucks. He hasn't retired as far as I'm concerned. I think he's still with the UFC. I'll be interested to see what happens, but I think skill-wise he deserves number 4 ranking on my list. Moving on, number 3. Someone a lot of people, people forget, man. Jared Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla. People forget, man. This guy's a fucking marauder. Good old Jared Cannonier. This guy gets counted out a lot, man. He's counted out in the Gregory Rodriguez fight, almost got finished, came back and put on a masterclass unk performance. Kyle Brahalio Mavov fight, it is what it is. He was going to lose that fight despite it being an early stoppage. Probably would have lost it on the scorecards. Kyle Brahalio, it is what it is. These guys are like high level, respective to the division fighters. Marvin Vettori whooped his ass for 5 rounds, made him look like a bitch, like he didn't belong. Not even Adesanya could do that, Just saying. Better performance than Adesanya did. Beat Sean Strickland. I don't consider it a win, but if we're crediting records here, okay, if we're looking at records, I thought it was a robbery, but if we're crediting records, he did do well against Strickland, made Strickland go on the back foot, which rarely you ever see any fighter, not even Adesanya, could do it. Lost to Adesanya, it is what it is. And then his losses are like to Whitaker, Dominic Reyes, Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, like, bro, his losses are quality losses. And when we're looking at unks, this guy's 41 years old, finishing young contenders like Gregory Rodriguez. I know Gregory looks 40. The guy's like 32, 33. RoboCop's still like in prime era, And yeah, man, he had some success against Kyle. I rewatched the Kyle fight, and yeah, it was a 3-2 Kyle, but like Cannonier did do, he did well in moments, he did almost get finished in the 5th round, but he did do really well in moments, So I think he was like a jab or 2 away from stealing that whole fight, but it is what it is. Mavov fight, it is what it is, but yeah. Jared Cannonier, number 3, gets this bronze medal. I do think Jared Cannonier is really fucking good, and I think he slept on a lot, man. Like, his boxing's crisp, and I'll just keep it a buck. I do genuinely think he beat MVP. I'm an MVP fan. I love MVP's fight style. I rate MVP pretty much everywhere except his takedown defense. I like MVP. I'm an MVP fan. He's one of the only fighters I've seen outside of the UFC come into the UFC, And you might have expected me to be like, come into the UFC and do success. No, I don't fucking watch B leagues, okay? I watch the UFC. I watch the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I don't watch these B leagues, okay? But MVP with his fucking flying knee on Cyborg and his fucking tornado kick, or farming, or the time he was fucking taking a selfie while beating the shit out of a guy on the ground, getting a point deduction, and then whooping his ass right after, Like, that's the type of fighters I enjoy, and MVP is also an unk, and he was up a weight class, so I know that takes some steam off Cannonier. Bro, I don't understand how Cannonier lost. If Cannonier's name was Jared Nurmagomedov, they would have given it to Jared Cannonier. Straight up. Can we be honest? Like, round 1, it was close. But I think it was a very clear, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was a very clear Cannonier round. And then round 2, I want to say... No, I think I'm misremembering. I think round 1 was MVP's. But it was close, but it was MVPs. Round 2, I want to say that's where Jared Cannonier started getting takedowns, and MVP started getting taken down. And he was getting, I think he even got outlanded, I want to say. Or the strikes were very, very close, but then you also have to add in the fact that Jared Cannonier is pushing the pace and getting takedowns. MVP's not. But, alright, sure, MVP somehow wins that round. And then round 3 is the most clear Jared Cannonier round, and you could arguably give a 10-8. I get, like, there wasn't a lot of damage, even though MVP had a black eye and cuts on his face and was bleeding, but he did get a takedown and had, 4.5 minutes of control time the whole time he was on top. If he landed a few more elbows, they give him a 10-8. If his name was Jared Nurmagomedov, they give him a 10-8, and it's a draw, But, yeah, I think Cannonier was genuinely robbed by MVP, I don't think it's a brutal robbery, but I don't, maybe I gotta rewatch it at some point, but I don't see how they gave it to MVP. And I'm an MVP fan, but I think Jared Cannonier slept on. I think he's gonna be live in his next matchup. I think he's still got heavy hands at his old age, and he's still got good technique pretty much everywhere. Wrestling, like his offensive grappling is kind of bad, but his wrestling's good. His strike's good, and respected to middleweights. Middleweights are shit. So moving on, we have someone who I might have recency bias for, but someone who I always mention in every single one of my predictions, and that is Neil Steel Magny, bro. This guy is fucking still a monster at fucking 38 years old. All right, just turned 38, so I'm putting him in here just because it's worthy of an unk match here. He's been around for like shit. He's been around for a while, man. Well over 10 years, so I definitely consider him an unk. He's been in there with the best, man. Shavkat, Gilbert Burns, Ian Gary, Michael... Like, his losses... When you're looking at losses, he's got some of the best losses. I know that sounds, like, weird to say, but, remove that Kiesa, and we got Shavkat, Gilbert Burns, Ian Gary, Michael Morales, Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates at the time was lossless in the UFC. Michael Morales at the time, or currently right now, has no losses, hasn't lost once. Ian Gary, was flawless at the time, lost to Shavkat. And Gilbert Burns, great fucking fighter Gilbert Burns is, yeah? But, yeah, I rate Gilbert Burns grappling a lot, but anyways, his losses are quality losses in my opinion, but his wins are also quality wins because he's active as fuck, which is a big plus for an unk. He's still got pop at 38 years old, okay? And on top of everything, he's taking on, like, the contenders. Not fucking, Chase Hooper, 1-1, coming off, like, 1 or 2 wins in a row. Terrence McKinney coming off 1 or 2 wins in a row. People we've already seen get their ass whooped. Mike Malott was looking really good, and then he came in, and Neil Magny put on that masterclass round 3, some notes from GM3, the good old GM3, and he fucking whooped Mike Malott's ass in the third round. Absolutely bitched him, made him quit. And Philip Rowe, at the time, big prospect, won that decision pretty clearly. Daniel Rodriguez, also a pretty okay prospect at the time. I wouldn't say he's like a fucking great prospect or whatever, but good prospect. And then when he's not given prospects, bro, this guy's given, even Jeff Neal at the time, I believe, like, this was prospect era Jeff Neal, This is where we thought Jeff Neal could be something. Then he lost to Magny. Robbie Lawler, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many fucking interesting names on his fucking list here, Carlos Condit, Johnny like, he's got some really interesting names. Kelvin fucking Gastelum back in the day. Like, bro, this guy's been around, man. And, yeah. When he's not fighting young prospects that are supposed to beat him, I'm talking minus 500, minus 800, minus 1,000 prospects that are supposed to beat this guy, he whoops their ass. And the only time he does it was when they have fucking plot armor. Jake Matthews, minus like 500, 600 closing odds, whooped his ass in round 3, despite the controversy in round 1. But it's just like, bro, this guy, Lizzie Zaleski dos Santos, I picked Neil Magny in this. I should have picked Neil Magny in this Jake Matthews performance, but I was doubting myself, which I shouldn't have. But yeah, I do think Neil Magny's slept on all the time, and people are like, wow, this guy's a dog shit fighter. Bro, his striking is still good. He's still got pop. His grappling defense it's weird. His grappling defense isn't the best, but what he loses in grappling defense, he makes up in clinch work. He normally puts your takedown and makes it into a clinch, and that's where he like sort of shines, in the clinch. He's tough as fuck, despite him having a Megamind forehead. Like, bro, Neil Magny's a G. Like, he is just a G. Former, I'm not gonna get into that, but he served time. You know what I mean? But he's trying to make a living. Trying to get custody with his kid, everything like that. Hope that's going well for Neil Magny. This guy's just a hard worker, and he's given, like, he's doing what he needs to do. He's given every single tough test, and he's been given every single tough prospect. And he'll win a majority of the tests he's given. You know, and that's something you can't say about every single fucking fighter. You know, so yeah, Neil Magny, I think for me deserves a silver medal. I think he's really good. I think his grappling's sneaky good. Like his length kind of allows him to be dangerous in the grappling more so than others. Um, and like I said, toughness still got pop. Like yeah, man, I rate Neil Magny a lot. Anyways, moving on to the number one gold place Unk. In my personal opinion, he's also the only former champion on this entire list. I don't think it's any secret. The legendary Polish power, you know, Jan Blachowicz. Some say he beat Alex Pereira. Some say he beat Magomed Ankalaev. Some say John Jones was running away from him. Okay? Others know him as the man who took Dominic Reyes' fucking chin. Alright? That might have been Yuri, but it could have also been credited to Jan Blachowicz. Some say better than Israel Adesanya on the feet. And I agree with all these claims. Okay, I might not agree with the Alex Pereira take. I do think Pereira clearly won that fight. However, I do think he got robbed by Olberg. I think this was a brutal robbery. Olberg did not outland Jan Blachowicz by any means. And I think in the one round where I think he did, alright, and I know, like, you might be bringing up stats or whatever the fuck. Stats-wise, I don't give a fuck what the UFC shows me. I watched the fight. I know Olberg didn't land as much as Blachowicz. I know Olberg lost that fight. He was on the back foot, running like a bitch, getting outstruck by Jan Blachowicz, you know? And how good is that age, you know? Carlos Olberg just slept Dominic Reyes, and Jan Blachowicz went 3 rounds with this guy, arguably beat him. Same thing with Pereira. And this guy takes on he's similar with Magny, bro. This guy takes every tough test he's given, you know? And how old is he? 42 years old. Enough said, you know? This guy, bro, he's taking on Bogdan Guskov? Holy shit, yo, this guy's a G, bro. He's taking on another young, hungry prospect, bro. This is the thing with Blachowicz, too. He's tough as fuck, like Neil Magny. He's got the skills to pay the bills. He's got wrestling. He showcased that in the Pereira fight. He's got striking. He showcased that in the Olberg, Rakic, Magomed Ankalaev. Like, he buckled Magomed's fucking legs. Pereira didn't do that, and Pereira arguably has some of the best leg kicks. So does that mean Blachowicz might have the best leg kicks? It's a weird world, the fight world, but yeah. It's so underrated, Jan Blachowicz's record. You know, he slept on it a lot. People don't rate him that much, and people never talk about him. Former champion. Got it off of... Who did he get it off of? Was it Rakic? Was it really Rakic? Or no, it was... I think it was a fight to unite the belts with Magomed Ankalaev or some shit like that. Like, this was... Whoever wins this gets a belt. I think that was the fight. But as far as I'm concerned, this guy's a former fucking champion. Deserved the belt. Beat Magomed Ankalaev as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how the fuck they didn't score it for Jan Blachowicz and gave it a draw. What a weird... Just rigged. Just fucking rigged for the cliff. We know it. Anyways, but yeah, I do think Jan Blachowicz earns a gold medal for Unk. Pound for pound number one. Yeah, this guy's just he's still a killer. Like, this guy probably puts out anyone who's unranked in light heavyweight. And respective to light heavyweight is another thing. Like, you can say something about, like, lightweight. Lightweight's a steep division. Like, you gotta have skills to pay the bills. So you could make the argument, like, Jim Miller's got better skills, technically, than Jan Blachowicz. But Jan Blachowicz, respected to the division, is just fucking better. Like, than most in his case, you know? Like, when we look at the rankings, there's not a lot of matchups that I can't think Jan Blachowicz should be the favorite in, you know? Zhang Mingyang, I think Jan Blachowicz easily would win that fight. Alonzo Metafield should be the favorite. Nikita Krylov, Johnny Walker, Bogdan Guskov is an interesting one, but we'll see how that plays out. Azamat Murzakanov, Volkan Ozdemir, Rakic he already beat, Reyes he already beat, Jamal Hill, even Jamal Hill, man. Khalil Roundtree, I might be picking Jan Blachowicz. You know what I mean? Olberg, as far as I'm concerned, already beat him. You know? I thought Jan Blachowicz already beat him. But, Yuri Prohaska, Alex Pereira, and Ankalaev are like the two names that are arguable right now, you know? But even then, I don't think Jan Blachowicz is going to be a plus 300, plus 400 underdog, you know? And when you look respective to the divisions, Neil Magny, JDM, I think we're all picking JDM, you know? Jared Cannonier, Khamzat Chimaev, I think we're all picking Khamzat Chimaev. Steven Wonderboy against JDM. Listen, I respect the fuck out of Wonderboy. Is he the better striker? Maybe. But he could get taken down. JDM does have submissions on his tool belt. Michael Johnson, Ilya Taporia. That's nightmare fuel. I don't even want to imagine that. Davey Grant versus Marab. Let's just, I'm not going to lie to you and say he has a chance. Jan Blachowicz arguably beat the champ and could be sitting with the belt right now. That's all I'm saying at the age of 42. That's crazy. Anyways, this has been my UNC ranking list. These are the top 10. At number 1, we have Jan Blachowicz. Number 2, we have Neil Magny. Number 3, we have Jared Cannonier. Number 4, Wonderboy Thompson. Number 5, Jim Miller. Number 6, Michael Johnson. Number 7, Davey Grant. Number 8, Derek Lewis. Number 9, Rob Font. And number 10, Tim fucking Elliott, mate. So, that has been my pound for pound list, top 10 for the unks of the UFC in Big 2025. Currently, I've uploaded, it's probably October. This list could eventually change, but given that this is the unk list, this is probably going to be around for a while. So, if you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good day.